how to deal with a difficult family member and get them to cooperate and treat you respectfully without compromising your values. And just to kind of clarify that you're here because you either have a difficult spouse, your spouse may be narcissistic, or you have a difficult sibling, you have a difficult child, or you have a difficult parent. And I would like to say, first of all, that it's important to realize it's not your fault. None of this is your fault. Why am I saying that? Your DFM may want to make you believe that you are the problem. And it's not your fault that you can't manage your difficult family member. Difficult family member is the same thing as DFM, just in case anybody's wondering. So just to make it easy, your DFM is your difficult family member. So it's not your fault that you can't deal with your difficult family member, because really there's no information out there giving you proper guidance on how to manage difficult family members. There's a lot of therapy, there's a lot of different things going on, but when it comes to managing your family member who you cannot leave for whatever reason, or you still feel bound to be around them for whatever reason, there's very little help out there. So if you felt hopeless and helpless, that you're stuck in this pain with your difficult family member, I want to encourage you today that there's hope. There's something you can do to manage things. And I also want to mention, you may have been made to feel like you're imagining stuff. Your difficult family member may have gaslighted you, may have made you become paranoid. I'd like to let you know that you are not alone in this situation. You're not alone in this situation. And it's important to know that, because when you realize that many people have similar patterns of experiences, you realize that it's your difficult family member that the problem lies with. So really, there's a way out of this mess. To become powerful within yourself, you can gain the tools, the knowledge, and you can gain understanding on how to deal with the never-ending situation with your difficult family member. And you can say bye-bye to walking on eggshells, bye-bye to second-guessing yourself all the time, and bye-bye to the never-ending control and manipulation you're experiencing with difficult family member. So the goal of the masterclass today is that if you're struggling with a difficult family member problem, I'd like to give you the tools that will enable you to get your difficult family member to listen patiently to you without nasty repercussions, without getting angry at you, without drama, becoming a drama queen. I like to give you the tools to get your difficult family member to respect you, to respect your views, respect your opinions, allow you to be able to talk. Give you the tools to help stop you second guessing yourself, and stop you having the fears that you might be victimized again or manipulated again by your DFM. I like to give you the tools to help you stop walking on eggshells whenever your DFM is around. As I'm saying all of that, you're most likely wondering, how can I do all that? I'll be showing you exactly how to do it using a system that we developed called the Dfm Neutralizer System. And as you can see in the screen, how the neutralizing acid with a base to create water. Now, why neutralizer? Our goal is not to destroy our DFMs. We may still love our DFM. We may still want to have a relationship with them, because if your DFM is your son, for example, you still want a relationship with him. We may still want to create a beautiful environment in our home with our DFM. So we're not intending on destroying them. We're not intending on being malicious. We're not intending on killing them. We're just trying to neutralize the negativity they bring to the party, the toxicity they bring to the situation in your life. So you may feel this is relevant to you, where you feel that where your DFM is concerned, you've tried everything. You've put an immense amount of effort into trying to be considerate, trying to be loving, trying to be caring. But it looks like the situation is an impossible situation that will never change. I can relate with you on this because I've also had to battle with a DFM in my own situation. And for those who know me, I love to be kind. I love to be self-sacrificing. I love to be well-meaning towards people. But sadly, this is part of the problem because you see, I'm a Christian and part of my faith teaches me to love and forgive. Part of my faith teaches me to not abuse, to not use mean words. Sadly, though, these are the exact traits my DFM used against me. It became a really, really difficult situation. So one of my friends was trying to help resolve my particular problem, my particular difficulty with my DFM. But it turned out that my DFM just twisted the situation in such a way that it made me look as if I was the bad person, like I was the mean person, completely destroyed my character in front of our friends. Now, just for some people who are wondering, I'm using the term DFM to describe my DFM because I don't want to tell you exactly who the person is. I believe I should still be protecting the person. So in the same way, if anybody wants to discuss their issue about the DFM right through the presentation, please just use the word DFM. You don't use anybody's name or anything that can identify that person. Okay, so, and for me, where that took me to a point where I became really, really self-conscious. I became really distressed. The arguments with my DFM, the fights, the battles with my DFM got me so badly in a place where I became really suicidal. And for those who know me will wonder, oh, is it even possible? Because people see me, they see me as someone who's always happy and bubbly. But to know that I can actually get that place where I feel suicidal, that shows you how drastic an impact your DFM can have on you. So that's how bad it all became until I came across a book. So this book is written by a guy called Chris Voss. Now, I think with Chris he's an ex-FBI agent whose role was to develop negotiation programs for the FBI when he was still employed by them. He's retired now. And the idea was that he wrote a lot of protocols for dealing with terrorists, for dealing with kidnappers. And on reading through this book, it helped me get a breakthrough process that helped me manage my DFM. Now, I'll explain why that was important for me. Because I'm a trained mental health nurse. I'm a trained psychotherapist, certified psychotherapist, with a specialty in cognitive behavioral therapy. I've worked on personality disorder units. I've worked on in the prison. I've worked in all the units where you would expect to find difficult people and learned to manage them. And yet still, despite all my experience, despite all my knowledge, my DFM managed to still make me feel suicidal. And it was when I came across this book that it gave me an insight that I didn't know before and helped me to kind of come up with the program that I'm going to be sharing with you today, the concept I'm going to be sharing with you today. Because you see, I was caught in a diplomatic trap. My professionalism, my knowledge, the experience I had as a mental health practitioner was what caused a lot of my problems. Because as a mental health practitioner, you understand where people are coming from. You understand, even if somebody is wicked, we've been taught to show unconditional positive regard, to show care and concern, irrespective of how people around us behave. And so that has become a lot of how I deal with things. But my DFM used that, because the more I was being diplomatic about my interaction with my DFM, like I was arguing his case for him, I was defending him to myself that, okay, I know he's a bad egg, but he's had this and this type of experience in life. There's reasons as to why he's behaving the way he's behaving, but that made me become trapped under the negative experience with my DFM. So when I started to use the concept within this book, and that's why it's important. That's important, because using all my knowledge in mental health, it didn't help me. It was until I used the concept within this book, married with the knowledge that I had the experience where I moved within 2 to 3 months, moved from constantly fighting with this guy. It's almost like every month to every 2 months, we get in a very big bust up. So constant fights with this guy, to now 2 years has passed and there's no disagreement. So it's not so much as if he has changed. He's still quite toxic in his behavior. It's just that when he relates with me differently. And I've been able to kind of engineer a type of relationship with him that makes us together more harmonious. In a way, he's become more respectful of me. He minds his business, and there's no more wars between us. But how does this all apply to you? You see, the strategy I'm going to be sharing with you today, it applies to everybody. So no matter who your DFM is, maybe your DFM is your teenage son, even if it's just your 8-year-old son. If your DFM is your husband, if your DFM is your wife or a parent, these strategies will still work for you. So anyone can do what I'm about to share with you. So I had a client, experience with a client who had a guilt-tripping mom. Mom was going slightly deaf, and my client was trying her best to keep mom safe, because mom lived far away from her, and she was always on the phone trying to contact mom or visiting mom, trying to get mom to do all the health appointments and all the necessities that she had to do. But mom was very argumentative. Mom would always cause her to feel guilty. The calls, each time the clients would call the mom, 30 minutes of a call almost felt as if she'd been talking to her mom for 5 hours. That's how intense the experience was. So I think she couldn't shake up the guilt that, okay, if she was just to ignore mom and something happened to mom, she won't be able to forgive herself. So she came to me and we learned the system I'm about to share with you. And within a few weeks, she started to engineer better interactions with her mom. Mom was still difficult, but when she got on the phone with mom, all that negative attitude, all the negative dynamics disappeared using the system. So what are we going to be covering today? We're going to be covering 3 secrets. Secret 1, how to influence your DFM to change positively, even if they are unwilling to cooperate or work with you. Secret 2, how to stop repeat abuse, repeat disrespect, and repeat manipulation from your DFM, especially when you can't cut them out of your life. I'm supposed to read life. Okay. Secret 3, how to negotiate like the FBI. In other words, negotiate a win-win outcome for both yourself and your DFM, even if they are unwilling to compromise. So we dig right straight into secret 1. So secret 1, how to influence your DFM to change positively, even if they are unwilling to cooperate with you. I mean, as you're reading that first title there, you're most likely thinking, but how would this work for me? I just kind of give you a quick background to my own experience with the breakthrough here. Because for me, I wasted years trying to encourage my DFM to meet me in the middle. I don't know if you've ever heard people say the best solution is both people come to a compromise. But my DFM was not interested in compromise because in his own mind, he was right. I was wrong. In other words, compromise did not work for my DFM. It wasn't something that was even in his vocabulary. And then again, you may have found that with your DFM, traditional therapy processes just does not work. Maybe you've been trying desperately to get your DFM to come with you to therapy, to counseling, to relationship work. It may be your mom, it could be maybe your husband, but they just refuse flatly not to go. And even if they do go, the dynamics of the conversation get so poisonous that you get nothing out of the therapy. And so this creates a question where if this person is not going to get help, they're not going to listen to anybody. They don't listen to me. They feel they're the only one that are right all the time. When you go into conversations with them, they're constantly butting in. They don't even give you a way in. How is this going to actually work? How is this? Is there any solution? Is there any hope at all? And that's where the concept in this book came in. So being able to use the negotiation process that Chris Voss developed, I kind of combined that with some psychotherapy principles. I was able to come up with this process because you see, the truth is that you don't need the other person to be actively involved to influence them to change positively. In fact, you can influence them to change purely by following a specific breakthrough negotiation process, which we're going to be talking about today. I'll just kind of give you a brief overview of how that process looks, because this is a process that will work for everyone. So as you're looking at this diagram here, you see your stuff will, in this case, will represent you and your DFM and the stuff. And the idea here is whenever you interact with your DFM, I don't know if this is your experience, but the common experience would often be you're on your own and then you come and interact with your DFM, and every interaction results in a toxic experience for you. You go away feeling worse off and feeling like you just wish you didn't even bother in the first place. And every time you try to come back, and this same experience happens all the time. And so what a lot of people then do is to try to just shield themselves. But the problem with just shielding yourself is you block yourself away, and then there's nothing going on between you and your DFM. And then somehow you try again to interact with the DFM, and attacks again. So the breakthrough process, which I'm going to be sharing with you, allows you to use some psychological principles to shield yourself from the poisonous effect of their attack from your DFM. But at the same time, it allows you to engage and be able to interact safely in a way that interestingly promotes healthy conversations with the DFM without the DFM even realizing you're doing this. Now, some people will say to me, isn't this manipulation? Aren't you manipulating your DFM? I would say that if you are doing something yeah, it's psychological related, but you're doing something that is actually helping someone grow healthily. This is for good. This is for good. So this is how the process would work. So we will kind of go into the process now. But first, before that, I'll just share another testimonial from another client who had a 17-year-old son. The 17-year-old son had ADHD and antisocial behavior. It was just impossible to engage him in conversation. He was completely uninterested, disinterested in coming to therapy. I don't know if you've ever actually had a son who would start to curse and use foul words at you as the mother. So she came to therapy and learned the breakthrough process, the breakthrough DFM process. And the outcome of that was that it improved her relationship with him. He was still toxic. It was still difficult. But she started to have a more positive influence on him. It was hard sometimes, but he began to slowly heed suggestions, listen to her suggestions, and actually start to work with her in a way. And he started to kind of see that as he interacted with her, and he listened to her more, he noticed improvements in his life and started to value the interaction with his mom. So now, with this thing with the DFM, a common thing that people might think is that, why do I have to go through all that problem, all that system of stress, just to engage with somebody who doesn't seem to care about me at all? Why don't I just cut them off? I mean, for someone who maybe has no ties to the person, it might seem easy to cut them off. But what if the person is your husband and you've got children? It's going to be hard to completely cut off. Or the person is your mom and you want your children to still have a grandmom, a relationship with their grandmom. It can be hard to kind of cut them off. And even bigger, this is probably a bigger reason to be careful of just thinking cutting them off is a solution. Because if you've been with your DFM for a while, or you've been around your DFM for some time, the experience would have changed you for the worse. And I say that, I don't say that, I say that with a heavy heart. Because your DFM, the dynamics of that relationship with your DFM would make you less trusting of people. It will cause you to develop a cycle of depression, a cycle of anxiety, a cycle of stressiness, because if I can use that word, a cycle of just constant worrying and risk management. You're constantly living in that world. And the impact of that is that anybody you engage with afterwards, anybody you try to go closer to afterwards, there will be negative, negative ripple effect from that interaction with your DFM that affects that other person that you're now, the new people in your life. And I had this experience with another client who left her toxic husband. But left her toxic husband, but did not do anything. Did not go into any therapy, don't do anything to try to learn how to build herself up and develop herself back again. So she went away with the children, but then the children grew up to dislike her and hate her. Which was really sad, because after years of suffering under a DFM, now it's almost like her whole world has kind of collapsed because of this. And so it's important to know that even if what you're thinking is breaking off from your DFM, you've got to do things to claim your power back, to gain your life back, so that you can move forward positively. So a lot of the things we're going to be sharing as well today will be giving you insights into how to achieve that. So that brings me to the core of today's strategy. So the breakdown, so the breakthrough process, the DFM breakthrough process, is kind of built around something I call the 3-step DFM neutralizer. system. And so this is my three-step system for turning your difficult family member into a cooperative puppy. And I got told off by some people for using cooperative puppy. But that's actually the image I want you to have in your mind, because if you have a puppy that is very unruly, that is weeing everywhere, pooing everywhere, disrupting everywhere, tearing your sofa, and then this puppy suddenly now becomes a puppy that when you call, comes, sits down, doesn't wee everywhere anymore. When it wants to wee, goes to the door patiently, waiting for you to open the door, cooperating with you. So that's kind of the image I want you to have with this Dfm Neutralizer System. But what does it actually entail? What does it entail? So these are the 3 steps of the neutralizer system. So step 1 is to attack the wall. Step 2 is to relive the confrontation. And step 3 is to master the negotiation. And within all these 3 steps, once you master these 3 steps, you'll find that you can get your DFM to work with you, to treat you kindly, to be a little bit more empathetic. Because I know that there are some DFMs that it's like they have no empathy at all in them at all. But might be able to get your DFM, even if it's that bad, to start to treat you with a little bit of empathy using this system as well. So that brings me to secret 2, which is how to stop the repeat abuse, the repeat disrespect, and the repeat manipulation from your DFM, especially when you can't cut them out of your life. Now, as you're seeing, reading that title, you may be thinking, but because of where I've been, I just feel too weak to challenge my DFM. Maybe I've struggled with mental health problems for a while because of my experience with my DFM. So I don't have the strength in me to deal with them. Because you feel defeated all the time. You feel confused a lot when any stresses creep up. It overwhelms you very fast. I like to say, if that's your experience, please don't worry about this, because the truth is that your DFM's protective system is carefully engineered to stun you and to disrupt your ability to not react effectively. And if you've been living with that consistently, that will naturally bring you into that mental frame where you just feel you can't cope at all, and you don't have the power to withstand them. But you see, their stunning power only works if you remain in defense mode all the time. And I'll give you examples of what I mean by defense mode. So what we're talking about here is your DFM's wall. Your DFM's wall is like a tantrum trap. Don't know if you've ever seen a child that the parent spoils, the child who throws tantrum, who just gets given whatever he wants whenever he throws the tantrum. What happens to that child? The child just becomes unruly even more. Or a dog that throws a tantrum is the same thing that happens. So really what's happening is, when you have an experience where you are talking with your DFM and all of a sudden they go into this emotional outroar, there's a tantrum trap happening. And what they are doing with this is they are using it as a tool to keep you under control. They're using it as a tool to keep you under control because that's how they have lived their lives. Whatever the circumstances which they grew up in, they live their lives coping using this tantrum trap to get people under control and get what they want. And unfortunately, you are now being affected. You are now being hit by this tantrum trap. And to even make this picture clearer, I want you to to think of an electric eel and how an electric eel hunts for food. And what it does is it stings the fish or whatever it's about to eat. And that thing becomes powerless and ready to be eaten. So I like to think of DFMs in three ways, like a tank, a landmine, and a sniper. So the tank is that person who it's like nothing can get into them. They're so hard. And they have these big guns that can just explode at you whenever they want. They can just, and no matter how far you are, they can get at you. So that's the tank. So your DFM may be the tank, or your DFM is the landmine who you just don't expect to react. They might be laughing with you, smiling with you. It looks like everything is fine, and out of the blue, bam! You get hit, you get stunned, and you're just wondering what happened there. And because it comes so fast, you've been hit, you've reacted, you've acted out in ways that you don't want to react, as it gets too late to do anything else. Or your TFM is the sniper. You know how the sniper will hide far away and be shooting from distance. So your DFM may be that person who uses subtle, underhanded remarks to grind at you, to get at you. Now, why is this important? Because you see, if all you do is to constantly protect yourself from your DFM, if that's all you do, you're not going to be wiser to their rules that they use for attacking. You've got to start to become observant of the system your DFM rule uses. Because you see, your DFM lives in a completely different world, a mental world, than you. And if you try to apply the rules that you have to your DFM and try to reason using the rules that you use, it will completely dumbfound you. And so if you're constantly just protecting yourself and not trying to understand the rules that they are using, you will be caught off guard all the time by your DFM. And just to kind of highlight a bit about this concept of the rules that they're using, and to show you this continuum, I call this a DFM continuum. Now, this is not to suggest that everybody who has got Asperger's or got ADHD they're difficult family members. That's not so. But it's quite common that your difficult family member is difficult because they've got some of the symptoms here. So going towards the psychopath, narcissist, sociopath, Asperger's, ADHD end. So it may be that the reason your DFM is so difficult is because they've got biological issues that causes them to be linked to some of these conditions. Now, what's it about this condition? So for example, Asperger's and ADHD, there's a tendency to be not be able to see the relationship between a cause and effect. So if I did A, it will create a reaction B from someone else. They can't see that relationship. And this is quite interesting because I have a son who's got ADHD. My eldest has got ADHD. And I'm constantly trying to educate him to see the cause and reaction of things. He may just suddenly tap his younger brother on the head and wonder why his younger brother is getting really, really aggressive and angry. And I then say to him, okay, Timmy, the last time your sister tapped you on the head, remember how angry that made you feel? And then we say, oh, I see. Then he goes and apologizes to his younger brother. He did not see that cause and effect relationship. And so the same thing may be happening with your DFM, where they are in a situation where the way they interact with their world they don't understand the rules or social rules. They can't work within social rules. So all these kind of conditions, the Asperger's, ADHD, sociopath, narcissist, and psychopath, there's a tendency for them to not really understand how to play with social rules. Now, having said that, the psychopath is a bit different. It's kind of a special case on its own, because the psychopaths can actually mimic someone who is empathetic. I have empath and rock here. This will be just people who are actually very supportive of you. Some people who interacting with them helps you to grow and become a better version of yourself. So those are the people that I put here in empath and rock. But the thing you see, a psychopath can mimic an empath and a rock, and gets you entwined into a relationship with them. Then the psychopathic tendencies come out, where they gaslight you. They can even murder you in your sleep. That's how that can be bad. So the sociopaths and the narcissists, they can all be as bad to some degree, but I put psychopath at the end there because in my experience, they can be quite deadly. So if you are someone who you're only focusing on protecting yourself when you're dealing with your DFM, and you're not noticing these different traits, these different rules that they use to function, you put yourself at constant risk of negative interactions with them. And that's why for this particular step of attacking the wall, what you're attacking is the tantrum wall of the DFM. You're attacking the wall. The first tool in your arsenal is your ability to observe. Your ability to observe what's happening. This can be difficult because when your DFM attacks you, you become emotional. Once you become emotional, you can't think straight yourself. And so you've got to learn the tools you've got to learn the skill of just stopping and trying not to react, so that you can observe the rules by which they're playing, because that's something you're going to use later on when we get to the third step in the neutralizer system. But you also use it a little bit in the next system that next step we're going to talk about. So essentially, in this situation, time is your friend. Holding out for longer before you react, and not giving in for the sake of peace, because this is a common thing that people we would do, because we know that your DFM will just up the ante, just keep upping the ante. This is just exactly how a spoiled toddler will behave. When they know that mom will give in if I cry for 30 minutes, they try to hold that cry for 30 minutes. But if mom now stops giving in at 30 minutes, they try to hold the cry for 45 minutes. They just keep up in the ante. So your DFM is going to up the ante as well, as you are trying to not react or not fall into the game, emotional game that they are playing. So it's important to kind of not fall in for the verbal assaults, not to counterattack, and just to, even if you can just walk away, find something to somewhere to go for a second or two, just to help you not react. That will be a good place to start. Now, that brings me to the next thing, which is this confrontation trap. And it's also links with walking away, because again, what I said earlier on, if all we're doing is protecting ourselves, self-defense, when we're dealing with a DFM, that it actually opens us up to a lot of negative experiences with the DFM. Because you see, you may be thinking that you are not good at dealing with confrontations, okay? So, Tony just asks, I wonder if you can explain adult scene of giving in for the sake of peace. So just to give are you asking me to give an example of giving in for the sake of peace?
Of not giving in for the sake of peace. You know, you did say that the previous, just going back on the previous secret that you shared.
Yeah.
Can you go back to the last slide? The previous slide before this. No, previous, sorry. Yeah, holding out for longer.
Yeah.
Versus, something is coming up on my screen. I don't know what that is. Yeah, holding out for longer versus giving in for the sake of peace. You're saying try not to give in for the sake of peace. So how, you give an example of a child, crying, and then the child knows that after 30 minutes you're likely going to give in. And I think I quite understand that. And after a while, they probably fall asleep when they know that you're not giving in because they were crying. So that's a child's scenario. I just wanted you to put it in the real world. If you have an adult DFM,
Yes.
and I will give my own example. I would give in for the just for peace sake. It's like I just can't take it. Just have to just keep quiet or walk away. You did talk about walk away, but is that how you should really, really deal with it? So I understand this. Don't counterattack. Yeah, but most times when you're dealing with the DFM, you give in for the sake of peace.
Yes. So thank you so much for that question. So the difficulty with giving in for the sake of peace, just like we said with the toddler, is that you train the DFM to believe they have the power in the situation. And it's harder, obviously it's harder when it's an adult you're dealing with, especially if it's an adult who you believe could physically harm you. And in the case of you, if you know that your DFM is going to physically be aggressive, my advice would usually be to slowly start finding a way to live away from that difficult family member, because somebody who's going to be aggressive physically could kill you. And then there's no way, no solution, nothing else that we can do. But if it's somebody who they're not going to go that far, not giving in for the sake of peace would be something like they come home and they expect you to tidy up the house, and you have been working your heads off, doing so many different things. You'll be very busy, and obviously you can't leave all these other important things just because you have to tidy up the house before your DFM comes home. So giving in this case would be to constantly try your best to tidy up before your DFM comes home. Now, obviously, what's that's going to lead to is if you don't tidy up before your DFM comes home, it's going to create an antique. It's going to raise arguments. It's going to create a commotion. So the trick here would be to find ways of doing it in little steps. And I'll give an example of how it may not work. This particular example may not work in your situation. We'll have to kind of talk about the whole situation to give you the example that work exactly. So we're trying to train this DFM to stop having these expectations, stop lashing out. So one thing you could do then would be you don't tidy up. As soon as the DFM comes home, you apologize. Oh, okay, I'm really sorry. I didn't tidy up. I'll do the whole thing now. Then you go and do it. Now, it looks like you've given in, but you have taken a little step in towards actually going against that person's wish a little bit. And then what you then start to do is increase the time. Okay, this person comes home. Oh yes, I'm going to tidy up. I'm really sorry about that, but don't tidy up immediately. Tidy up a little later. What we're trying to do is just to kind of change the dynamics of the relationship. But what we're discussing here now is a bit beyond what we have in store for today. What we
Okay.
have, sorry?
Move on. I just wanted to understand, in an adult context, what
Context.
you meant.
Did
Yeah.
that make sense then? What I
Yeah, it does.
said?
It does.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay. So, going to the confrontation trap. Now, the thing with confrontation trap is that you might be at a place where you feel that you are bad at confrontation. I don't know how many of us here feel I just don't have any bone to be able to confront people. It's just not what I do, for whatever reason that may be. In situations like that, you just not feel in control. It just sets you off. You get stressed or you get anxious. You may even get panicky. And this kind of begs the question, because if what we do is with confrontation is we avoid confrontation all the time, what happens when the confrontation catches us by surprise? This creates two problems. One problem is that it actually stops you from developing what I call a confrontation muscle. And in that way, what I mean is this. The way our brain is meant to develop things is to experience something and experience it over and over, and then it becomes something that we can do easily. Because if you think about you driving a car, when you first started learning to drive, everything seemed confusing. But after years of driving a car, because driving a car is quite a complex thing, really, if you think about it, if you think you have to manage the steering, you have to keep an eye on the road, you have to keep an eye on the back of the car, you have to keep an eye on the sides, you have to manage the gears, manage the pedals. At the same time, probably manage your children in the car as well at the same time. But after years of doing this, it becomes so second nature that you don't have to think about it at all. You may even do a 5-hour journey, and the act of driving the car itself never really popped in your mind because you are thinking of all other things. It's been built into your body, your brain's muscle memory. And so really, if we avoid confrontation, it never gives the brain a chance to repeatedly experience the process of confrontation enough to build the muscle memory for managing confrontations. So it kind of weakens you, first of all. And that's number one. And the next thing is, because you're always staying away from confrontations, they feel like a bigger monster whenever you struggle with the confrontation. It becomes a bigger issue. I see Jenny is asking, can we actually have a concrete example at the end? We'll see if our time permits, Jenny. Okay. So, and that kind of brings me to this now. So I had this experience with a client of mine. So this client had a daughter who was struggling to like her mother, because his mom used to be an alcoholic, and that's when the daughter was younger, and the daughter felt she was neglected as a child. And that kind of infused the daughter with a lot of anger. Now, mom is trying to have a relationship with her daughter, but almost every other day, they will have a big angry bust-up. A simple request becomes into a shouting match. And this was the experience that the mother was struggling to even find it comfortable, find it easy to enjoy living in her own home. So she came to me and we started working on learning tools to manage the daughter's anger. But as we were doing this, it became obvious that, okay, we have a situation where, how is she going to prepare for a situation that comes by surprise? Something that she can't determine, she can't tell when it's going to happen, right? One of the good things about our brain is that our brain can practice things through imagery. And that brings me to something I call your personal mental gym. Okay, just give it. Just going to say, I'm noting people that have questions to say. I'm going to be answering the questions. So don't think I'm ignoring you. Okay, so respect your emotional freedom can be created, can be experienced through imagery. So your personal mental gym. So how did I do it with this lady? So the idea was then to kind of catalog all the different bust-ups that she's had with her daughter, all the different arguments she's had with her daughter. And the idea would then be to go away and practice just imagining the whole experience first. Imagining how the experience went, and then imagining a change, how she would like to react. So if when her daughter shouted at her first, she shouted back, she wants to learn how to not shout back with this daughter. So in her imagery, she practiced not shouting back to the daughter. She practiced just remaining quiet and refraining from reacting immediately. And within 2 weeks, and this is no joke, within 2 weeks, she found herself being able to do it in real life. And when I say she practiced this, she practiced 3 times a day for 2 weeks. So that's a lot of practice. But this is actually giving the brain the power and the muscle memory to be able to deal with those situations that sort of was catching her by surprise before. So in other words, she was able to react a lot faster, which is what happens when we've learned to drive for a while. So that your brain has that ability. It's just knowing how to then use it, using imagery to kind of practice the process. So this is not a new idea that I'm sharing here. This is an idea that gets used massively by elite sportsmen, people who are high in the profession. They practice just imagining themselves maybe practicing throwing loops with basketballs or practicing scoring balls or dribbling. If you read online, you'll notice there are quite a lot of those high top athletes do this quite a lot. So it's something that we can also borrow in managing our DFM. So the idea will be to start practicing just pausing and thinking and reframing in your mind, trying to change your state to the image first. Because you see, if you've been in a very difficult spot with your DFM, where the argument caused you to feel very bitter or very anxious or very threatened, just remembering the experience would highly likely bring those emotions back again. And when that happens in imagery and you're able to then practice reacting differently to that image and emotion, it also helps you learn to manage the emotion as well. For this one, I actually would like to ask, did that make sense? Is there anything there that you would have loved me to explain better? Okay. Someone says they are not seeing the screen. Amazing Grace.
I was just going to say that we're looking at join audio share screen. I actually thought I was the one that pressed something wrong.
Oh, sorry.
I think you can't see the screen.
Yeah.
Can you see the screen now?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So I've just been talking, thinking you've seen the screen. Sorry about that.
That was my finger that got into a mess there. Yeah.
Okay.
Can we ask question now, or you rather we wait?
Okay. You can ask a question, yeah.
So mine was at the beginning. You talk about breakthrough. When you face a wall with someone, and you were like sharing. You shared a picture to say how to interact and how to make the person interact safely.
Yes.
But like concretely, how do you, because you said the person won't realize that he's doing this. Yes. But how do you concretely do it? Like what do I say? That's going to be, everything is in the book or?
No. So what's going to be happening, because I'm sharing the whole process with you. I'm on the second step of the process. In the third step of the process, you see how they all work together to form that whole breakthrough process that I shared. Yes?
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, can I just check with people that this particular explanation of using imagery to practice confrontation before dealing with the real thing makes sense?
If you can go over it again, if you don't mind.
Yeah, because I'm not sure.
Are you saying with this one that you almost like have to practice it in your head
Exactly.
before doing it?
Exactly. So we practice it in our head, and what it does, it literally practices the neurons. It exercises the neurons you will use for the literal thing of in real life. So that's why I was using the examples from sports where people will practice dribbling. They'll practice dribbling in their head. They won't actually dribble. But then the scientists, when they measure, they realize that the neurons have grown in an area where the neurons manage the legs, for example.
How do you then cope with sometimes when you've done some imagery practicing in your head, and then the outcome doesn't go that way? Then how do you manage with that?
So, as one of the things you're going to be finding is that you will come across new experiences, definitely.
Okay.
But in the initial phases, you will find that it's harder to manage new experience. But the more you practice this, the better you get at it. Just like we practice with anything. I'll give another example. So it was actually going to the next screen.
Okay, you can continue.
So one of the things with the imagery practice is that, and not just imagery practice, anything we do, there is a development process. Anything you want to do that's new to you, there's going to be a development process. So if you go to the gym and you are trying to build muscles, you can't just go and carry the biggest weights immediately if that you've never done it before. You start from the smaller weights and build your way up. Now, the same thing when we are practicing imagery, that I had another client who her difficulty was that her husband had cheated on her for 12 years. And she found out, and they were trying to kind of repair the relationship. She tried to kind of forgive him, but every time she got into was in the same room with him, or he tried to hold her hand, she just got flooded with all the possible negative things that could have been happening for all those 12 years. And so she was angry with herself. She was angry because she couldn't understand, why is it that when I'm not in the same room with him, I'm able to kind of manage things. I don't get emotional. I don't get all these things. But then when I get in the same room with him, I can't stop having all these negative image things in my head. So I use the same analogy of building up your brain muscle to manage the situation. So in her brain, she'll first start to kind of work with, okay, he's sitting next to me here now. He's sitting next to me here now. Practice the way she feels like reacting. Practice the way she would want to react. So that if she feels like reacting, like maybe convulsing and throwing up or running out of the room, then she practices actually in her brain staying in the room with him. So eventually that enabled her to actually be able to stay in the room with him. But it didn't allow her to be able to hold hands with him. She had to do more practice to kind of be able to hold her hands with him, to actually go on walks with him. So I hope you're seeing that there's a progression here.
Yeah.
And so with imagery as well, you're also practicing the progression of difficult scenarios. So if you meet a harder scenario, it's not because you are not doing better, it's because the situation is harder and needs a different or a different intensity of practice. And so the more you put that into practice and the more you do this, the more powerful you find the whole process gets for you. And in fact, just recently we ran a 6-week program helping people implement this practically. Within 4 weeks, I started getting reports from people saying that they're finding themselves able to cope emotionally around their DFMs where they couldn't do it before. Where before they had to walk out of the room, they could actually stay in the room with the DFM after practicing this. Actually, for 2 weeks, they actually practiced this, and they had that ability to do that. So,
okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Welcome. So in your imagery, you're practicing how you're kind of managing your own state. Because if you have somebody who's all rah, 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 getting angry, and you can actually remain calm, it's almost like water being poured in fire. It affects the person's state. So in a way, the way you're managing your state manages the person's state, and can actually start to give you control in that situation. So I have another case study. I think I've actually given you my case study earlier on. So this is the client I said was struggling with a DFM, with her DFM, and was able to now sit in the same room with the DFM. So in her experience, she kind of found like she felt like there was no way out when she was struggling with this issue. She felt like it was a constant series of failures, all the nitpicking, the abuse, the name calling left her with no peace in her mind. She felt like she had no free will of her own. It was like she was constantly being controlled and manipulated. And so when she came to the program, she just had enough of walking on eggshells around this husband and second guessing herself constantly around this husband. And just wanted to be able to return to being able to love herself and feel confident in herself again. So after practicing this imagery process, she reported to me that she started feeling resentment. She stopped feeling resentment or bitterness towards him, although he hadn't changed. But that kind of released her from the negativity, the toxic negativity. And I can stay in the same room with him and still be able to maintain a sense of inner peace, which was something she couldn't do before. So now, if you're thinking though that I'm hearing you and I'm hearing the idea of practicing this process of imagery can be helpful, but for me, I find my thoughts can get too overwhelming. I just won't be able to cope with that imagery process. Now, that's quite possible, especially if your experience with your DFM has led to major traumatic experiences, even minor traumatic experiences. So really what's happening here is you've developed something called PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, which would then amplify any image you try to think of. So if you're trying to use this process, you will notice that it could create an overwhelming experience in your head. You may actually feel foggy, you may feel heavy when you're trying to practice this. So in that case, what I would suggest to you is cut the process down even more. So where we're saying take it in baby chunks, maybe for one person, they're able to start just imagining small bits of experience, maybe 2 seconds, just do 2 seconds. Or you may have to start by just maybe writing bullet points on a paper and not using imagery at all, because imagery can be quite powerful. The way the brain experiences images is next to how the brain experiences real life. So it's the next thing in line. So there's real life, there's images, there's thoughts, and then there's writing or anything we see on paper or write on paper. So imagery can be quite potent in that way. So in this case, you think of, well, maybe I just start just by writing bullets. And if that's what you have to do to get into the process of being able to confront your DFM in your mind, then that's a very good place to start. And it may feel like, oh, it will take me forever to get to a point where I'm able to break out of fear of confrontation. That's not true. Interesting, the way the brain works is that when you practice some things in baby steps, the brain starts to make connections and makes the whole process faster. And so a lot of my clients who maybe for 30 years, they've been struggling with a negative thing in their life that they've not been able to overcome. So now I bring in the baby process, and within 4 weeks, they can start to overcome that thing. So don't think that because you're doing the baby step process, this is going to hold you back for long. No, it's a power the brain has. In actual fact, the brain's core language is tiny, dealing with things in tiny steps. And that's why when we want to memorize things or we want to learn new things, like maybe you want to learn piano, they teach you small phrases first. And you learn loads of small phrases. Before long, you can connect the whole thing into this big, massive, complex piece. Okay, so this now takes us to the third secret, which is to negotiate like the FBI. And in this case, negotiate a win-win outcome for both you and your DFM, even if they are not willing to compromise. Now, as I say that, as you read that title, you might be thinking, but I can't even get a word in. I don't know how to get my DFM to hear me out. They're so eloquent and able to argue their case that they just butt in. They don't listen. They're constantly not letting me finish my sentences. So how are you going to negotiate with such a person? So that kind of brings me back to that the book that I mentioned. So just kind of to say that I'm not expecting you to go and read the book. Obviously, if you go and get the book, all the better, because it will give you good knowledge, give you kind of inside knowledge to what I'm sharing here. Although the book won't share with you how to use the process with the DFM like I'm sharing with you, because I'm connecting what I learned with the book from the book with some other psychotherapy principles. But it's a good place to actually start to learn, to understand negotiating with people. The book is written to help people negotiate your job, a higher raise, or negotiate in sales. Okay, so, but why is this actually crucial for me? Because you see, when I was trying to deal with my DFN before, I learned about this process. I was constantly trying to prove to my DFM, to show him why he was wrong. And I tried to show him in the nicest way possible why he was the person who started the problem sometimes, or try to show him in the nicest way possible, laying down the evidence. I think it's none of this work. None of this work. And the reason why it's not working is because they all came, all my evidence, all my suggestion, all my explanation came from my own perspective. And the big thing here was that this was what blinded me, because it's kind of an irony here. I'm trying my best to explain, and not even seeing that whole process itself is all kind of flawed when you're trying to get your DFM to explain. It really is the worst thing you can do, and I explain why. Because you see, in my experience in therapy, when I'm working with difficult people in therapy, there's a constant thing I notice. They are not interested in what I have to say until they see that I understand their world. They're not interested in what I have to say until they see I understand their world. So I'm just going to ask people, if you don't mind keeping your mics muted so we don't have like background noise, unless you have a question you want to ask or something to explain. Okay, so they're not interested in what you have to say unless they feel you understand their world. But actually, you think about it yourself. If you have a friend who's constantly just interested in what they have to say, never really interested in understanding you and your world, you will not feel like that person is a friend. You will not feel comfortable. You will not enjoy conversation with that person. And I'm sure most of you would probably have had a friend who the interaction with that friend is always like a one-way street where everything's about them. They are the only ones in pain. They're the only ones struggling. They're the only ones. But when you have someone who is willing to understand your world, you feel moved, you feel validated, which is kind of strange because DFMs don't realize that they're constantly invalidating other people. They don't realize that their behavior causes people that much pain, but they want so badly to be validated. They want so badly to be validated. So I find that in therapy, when I start to validate my difficult people in therapy, to kind of show them I understand the world, now they are willing to listen to me. Because they were the one who came to me wanting change, but they're not interested to listen until they see that I understand their world. Now they can accept the change. Even if the change suggests that they're being wicked people, they are more willing to accept the change once I understand the world. So that brings me to a concept from the book called Tactical Empathy. So that is the process of understanding your DFM's position, why their action makes sense to them. Now, it doesn't have to make sense to you. And this is the thing. We're always trying to see, that doesn't make sense to me. Why would this person just behave that way? It doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't have to make sense to you. You understand why their action makes sense to them. You know, from the first step of the process, which is attacking their wall, we've said kind of start to observe the rules that they've been using, start to observe the way they react to things as opposed to you defending yourself or reacting. When you start to do that, you start to experience an understanding of your DFM's position. They have the bubble that they are in, this world that they exist in. You start to understand why certain things, actions make sense to them as okay. I have a situation with one of my clients whose DFM was really, really mean to her to the point that she separated from him. And for years, this DFM is still constantly trying to get the clients to come to bed and sleep with him without even apologizing, without even owning up or accepting the wrong of their ways, but just constantly trying to get there, just making the client feel, do you think I'm a harlot or something, right? It doesn't make sense. The action doesn't make sense, right? But when you start to think about it from the DFM's perspective, as warped as that process, as that thinking process might be, you can now, it's a powerful key towards actually grabbing them towards your position, to actually come to your side and start trying to argue your case for you or helping you to win the whatever battle or argument you're having with them. And I'll explain to you how that works now. So your first task in the process is you start to peel the emotional layers in the experience. So you're trying to highlight, to kind of pinpoint what emotion that the DFM is experiencing at this time. Because you see, once you can pinpoint the emotion and you can relate it back to the DFM, they feel, oh, now you understand me. Now I'm validated, right? In a way, it starts to contribute to taking the fight, the power, the negativity out of their bubble, if you can say for a second. Now, perhaps I should have also said this. The reason this whole system works, Chris Voss, when he was using it to deal with terrorists and deal with kidnappers, because you know a kidnapper has someone's life in their hands. So there's no room for error in negotiation. So they had to develop a negotiation process that will produce a win at all times. So if you master that process of negotiation, you follow it to the T, it was always guaranteed to get the terrorists to give up whatever threats they're trying to commit, or to get the kidnappers to give up the person, the kidnapper, without harm to them. So it's always guaranteed. And that's why this same process works with your DFM, because no matter how poisonous or negative your DFM is, they have this core thing that is a weakness, and that is self-interest. And if you work with that self-interest in a way that helps them to actually start to value what you're trying to get them to value, you actually get them on the side. So how do we do all of that? So you peel the emotional layers, and getting back to this, you peel the emotional layers. So like you're saying, it seems like you're feeling angry. It seems like I've upset you. It seems like you're sad. It seems like you're anxious. And then you keep quiet. You keep quiet and you're listening to whatever the response is. And the response they give you is key to tell you whether you have hit the nail on the head or you still need to do a bit more fishing. Because if they said to you, no, that's not it at all, that's not it at all, you can say to them that you did not say that's what it was. You said it seems like that kind of gives you a bit of a get out clause. But if they said to you, yes, that's true, in many cases, that's not actually true. That's not actually true. In fact, a no is better than that kind of a yes. That kind of a yes is a yes that can actually get you more entrapped in the situation. What you are looking for is an enthusiastic response of that's right. Exactly. This is what I've been saying all along. This is the thing I've been trying to point out to you at all. You are looking for that reaction. When you get that kind of reaction, you have hit the nail on the head with the emotion that you've called out. So that's the first step. You're trying to kind of name the emotion, because once you name that emotion, they start to feel validated. So whatever fire they have in them, whatever negativity they have in them, it actually starts to quench that fire from that point of when they feel validated. And that's when you bring in the big guns of the negotiation process. So we said, yes, first you understand your the DFM's underlying emotions. Then next, you're going to take these two things. What's your DFM values? Try to figure out, from observing them and observing their reaction, try to figure out what's your DFM values and what your DFM wants from you. Those two things. What your DFM values and what your DFM wants from you. And then you take those two things to do this magic formula, which is what you want from me is going to ruin what you value. What you want from me is going to ruin what you value. I'll give you some examples to make it more tangible in a minute. So what you want from me is going to ruin what you value. And then once you get to that stage, you move to the next magical formula, which is, you start using, I call this calibrated questions. This calibrated questions gently guide your DFM from the position where they are against you to a position where they are in for you. They actually work with you in the situation. And you'll be surprised how well it works when you master it. That you actually see that person who maybe for years has been fighting you over something starts to actually agree with you and work with you over that same thing. So the calibrated questions are something like this. So how am I supposed to do that? Rather than, no, I can't do that. No, that's not, I'm not even going to entertain that or anything like that. Question is, how am I supposed to do that irrational demand that you're making? Obviously, you don't call it a rational demand. Till they come around to realizing that what they're asking you is impossible or is not right. Okay, I'll use some examples here to explain. So this first example, this is a simple example just to kind of explain the concept, then we'll go to a more complex example. So the first example, so this one, I'll use this example with my son. So one of the things that happens with my son is that we're trying to encourage him to love studying. My son loves games. He really loves games. And so we're constantly having this battle of study. But whilst he's studying, he's secretly finding ways of playing games and playing computer games. And so this coronavirus period, he's been having homeschool on the computer. So his class teacher is teaching him something, but in the corner of the screen, he's playing a Mario game or a Roblox game. And we are constantly in a battle of trying to get him to work with us. So one of the things we came up with, okay, we said we're going to give you a time to play your game. You will have a full hour where you can play games in the evening. But this didn't seem to work at first because he was still playing games in the corner. And then I said to him one day, I said, but okay, you're playing games in the corner. So this contract we have with you of playing the game full hour later in the evening, we've got to cancel it. He got really angry. But why? It was just one time that I did this. I didn't really do it that much. He got really angry. So I said to him, Timmy, but how am I supposed to do what you're asking me? How am I supposed to do that? He stopped for a second and listened. I said, how am I supposed to give you an hour of a game when you agreed with us that you will not play on the computer whilst your lessons are going? And then he thought about it for a second. And then he agreed with me. And since then, it's been a lot easier for me to just say, but Timmy, your contract, and he stops whatever it is that he's doing without no argument. Okay, so that's as an easy example. A more complex example. So there's one of my clients, or also one of the people who came on the course that we ran recently. So the issue was that her husband is a very religious person and very loved and very known as kind and considerate and a helpful person. But her husband is of a different denomination, and her husband has some spiritual principles that he has been trying to force on her since they got married. So the spiritual principles would be, if your child is sick, don't bother going to the doctors. Just pray. It's a demonic problem. Just pray over it. And because she felt the need to still take the children to the doctor, he felt that she violated his authority in the home. And this became something that although it seemed pointless, but became the core problem in the marriage, holding the negative experience together in the home. He would belittle her. He would make her feel she's evil. So many negative things just because of this thing. And so she's tried to argue her case for years, tried to help him to see that the way he's dealing with things is not biblical. But he has this thought that nobody, apart from people who attend his denomination, they're all unspiritual. They don't even have the ability to interpret scripture properly. Their ability to connect with the spirit is zero. So there's no point even listening to them. And so because she fell into the slot of people who they don't really have any authority when it comes to scripture or the spirit, he just didn't listen to anything she said. So in trying to kind of come up with an idea of how she could use the calibrated questions, we said, okay, observing his world, what's in his world? What is in his world that you can use to help make him see that what he wants from you is destroying something he values? So after some time, she came up with the idea of, okay, there are people in his denomination who are doctors. There are people in his denomination who take their children to doctors, people who he respects. So she could approach the conversation from, okay, please, just help me here. I'm sorry that I'm upsetting you, but just help me here. How does this work? Your colleague at your church is taking the children to a doctor, but then you're saying that I shouldn't take our children to the doctor because it's a spiritual thing. But how does that work? This then produced an environment where the DFM can start to question himself which gradually just loosens up the argument enough to give my client some way into the conversation in a way to slowly guide the DFM away from that stuck negative position. Okay. So that's a complex explanation of how to use a system. Can I just ask the question, did that make sense? Did you kind of need me to elaborate a bit further on that before we move on? Any takers?
I think it does make sense.
It makes sense.
It is complex, you're right. But like you have said before, that we need to develop a muscle strength so that when he raises those ridiculous questions, like in my example, he will always ridicule or bring me down when he responds.
Yes.
But if I'm working on my mental muscle, which you mentioned, which is really going to help me,
exactly.
At least we are starting somewhere.
Exactly.
Whether he doesn't show immediately, I don't get the positive outcome immediately. At least he's got some homework to start working on while I'm also working on building my mental muscle.
Exactly. Thanks a lot for that. I think was that Queen or Jenny? Oh.
Queen.
Right, sorry.
There are two queens though.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. So other examples of calibrated questions are things like you could say, there are loads of questions you can ask here. We cover a lot of this in more detail in our main program. This is just a tip of the iceberg of the whole program. Okay? As you can hear, it's quite a complex system, but just as Queen said, the more you practice this, and it becomes, you burn it into your muscle memory, you don't have to think about it. It just becomes so simple as driving a car can be. And that's the power here. So other examples of calibrated question, what about this is important to you? How can I help this to make this better for us? How would you like me to proceed? The interesting thing about this whole process is that I used to be my wife's DFM. And in my own experience, I believed she was my DFM too. And the situation got really, really, really bad. There were so many times we felt, okay, that we just had to separate. We just had to go our separate ways. The only thing that actually kept us together was the fact that we're thinking the impact is going to have on our
Sorry, I
children.
can't hear anything at the moment.
Hello? Can you hear me now? Hello? Can anybody hear
yes,
me?
I'm okay now, yes.
All right. Okay. Yeah. So, because I just lost my train of thought. So we were both struggling. And a big part of the struggle that we had was that I was trying to be kind-natured and loving. My wife was trying to be helpful and forward planning, because her strength is in being able to organize and deal with things in distance. But my strengths are really kindness, loving, and living in the now. So if something major goes wrong now, I become the rock in the house. If there's something that needs to be planned, complex thing that needs to be planned for December, my wife becomes the rock in the house. But at the time, we were not actually seeing these things as strengths that complemented each other. It just felt like we were just against each other, and it was all getting really, really toxic and poisonous. But after applying, actually now it becomes a thing of a joke. When we think about those days now, we laugh about it, because after applying the principles I've shared with you, actually the 3 steps we've shared with you, particularly the negotiation process that we've shared with you, we apply this regularly, and it helps us to be able to communicate much better. So where she's no longer my DFM and I'm no longer her DFM. Now, I laugh about it now, but when we were in pain, when we were in struggle, it was really, really dire. It was really difficult, really, really hard. So it was me that sort of started to introduce this concept of practicing this negotiation process first in our relationship. she started to notice it. And in a strange way, it started to make her feel validated. And as she felt validated, she started to drop her own guns. As she started dropping her guns, she started to talk to me about her feelings. And we started to work together better. We started to kind of relate to each other with respect. And in the way that even today, she texted me saying, Wale, you've changed so much. In my own mind, I'm thinking, no, you are the one who has changed so much. But the idea here is that the whole process, it works. It works if you can be just like Quinn says, if you can be patient with practicing and with practicing and getting to a point where it becomes habitual, it works. So let me ask a question. So far, have you enjoyed the masterclass?
Yeah.
Yes, cool. Cool. Yes, cool. So what we've covered today, we've covered secret 1, how to influence your DFM to change positively, even if they are unwilling to cooperate or work with you. We've covered secret 2, which is how to stop repeat abuse and repeat disrespect and repeat manipulation from your DFM, especially when you can't cut them out of your life. Secret 3, how to negotiate with like the FBI and negotiate win-win outcomes for you, both yourself and your DFM, even if they are unwilling to compromise. So I'm wondering who wants to take this to the next level. Just like Quinn said, this is quite complex to practice, and you may be feeling like, whoa, there's a lot of moving pieces here. So I'm wondering who on here would like to take it to the next level. Just say, yes, I'm ready, or put in a chat box, I'm ready. Let me know. And then
I'm ready.
Did you say I'm not ready?
I am.
I'm ready. Okay, I'm ready. So I'd like to introduce you to my 30-day Dfm Neutralizer Challenge. So what's this about? This is a 30-day program where I'll be giving you kind of practical skills to get your DFM to communicate with you without any more nasty repercussions. I'll be giving you skills to get your DFM to respect you and respect your views, to respect your opinions, and can happen in as little as 4 weeks. I'll be helping you to develop the confidence so you no longer have to keep second guessing yourself when you're around your DFM. And so this 30-day challenge. I call it a challenge because, as you already see, it's quite an involved process. And so there's a lot of things to do. There's a lot of things to do in 30 days. And when we went through the whole program, the last one, people were telling me, whoa, there's quite a lot to do. But a lot of people were telling me, this is answering a lot of questions for them. This is helping them to heal. This is actually quite therapeutic as they were doing this, although it was a challenge. So here's what you're going to get with this DFM Neutralizer training. 6 weekly DFM video trainings. So the video trainings, for week 1, you're going to be looking at how to prevent lifelong damage. Because if you've been with a DFM for a while, as I said earlier, there'll be certain systems sort of burnt into your coping strategies, things that actually work against you. You don't realize they're working against you. And even if you leave your DFM, you carry all that toxin and poison around with you. So week 1 will be looking for strategies to prevent those kind of damages so that you can move on positively with your life if you do need to move on. Or you can, if you're staying with your DFM, you can still be in a more positive frame and have a better sense of your future, so that's not actually coloring things negatively for you. So week 2, we'll be looking at a foolproof strategy to avoid repeat abuse from your DFM. We've kind of touched on a tip of it in today's work, but during the week 2, we'll be going step by step. We'll be going in detail on a daily basis. I'll be giving you steps to go and practice at home, and you can actually start watching things change in real life for yourself with the program. So week 3, we'll be looking at how to overcome exploitable emotions. especially the emotions caused by your DFM. Why is that important? Because if your DFM is the type that will take your emotion and make you feel like you are the devil because you've reacted in a way that's negative, which was really just a reaction to their negativity or their attack, your DFM can just twist that around and use that to color you and smear you and cause more problems for you. So in week 3, we'll be looking at strategies that will help you be in control of your emotions in a way that you can feel settled, you can feel inner sense of peace whilst you're trying to manage your DFM. So week 4, we'll look at mental strengthening skills for toxic moments. We've talked about how to use imagery here. We've talked about how to go through that kind of negotiation, the FBI negotiation process. But in week 4, we'll be going into that in step by steps. And I think a lot of the people who came the last program, they were quite surprised that I was chasing them in their emails. Do the homework. You need to do the homework. You need to do, because I know that when people do the work, the outcome is that they feel a lot of confidence. They can actually hold their own in a conversation with a DFM in a way that it doesn't become an ugly situation. I think one of the people, they were saying that she found herself, she had to have a meeting with a pastor and the husband. Husband was being quite negative. Pastor was trying to resolve the issue among them, but husband started to become quite vocally aggressive, but she was able to just hold her own. And in a way, she became like the adult in that scenario, and something that she'd never been able to do before. So week 4, we look at those kind of skills that just gives you that strength to be able to deal with those kind of confrontations in a very positive and strong way. Bearing in mind that all this process is not about us being negative and bad towards our DFM. It's more about us trying to control the situation so that their toxicity doesn't just keep foiling everything. So week 5, we master the FBI negotiation trick. The whole process that we've gone through today, we're going through it step by step. And then week 6, people felt that this was one of their best weeks because we learned specific tools that help you prevent relapsing. And what's interesting with these tools is that it's not just to do with DFMs, anything to do with emotion. If you're struggling with any kind of emotions, stress, because of the lash or the experience with living with a DFM, these tools help you prevent yourself relapsing. You don't get depressed again. You don't get anxious again. You don't get stressed again. So those are the 6 weeks. Now, one of the testimonials from one of my the people who attended. Now, I've left the names out because I believe and I need to protect the identity of the individuals. And although some of them have allowed me to use their names, I still felt it's safe to leave the names out. So this lady said, all these years, my DFM made me believe I was the weird, paranoid, wicked, and unsubmissive. But now I actually understand myself better. I feel equipped to block my DFM's toxic behavior, so it no longer affects me. I'm now beginning to like myself better and actually, that's supposed to say, having fun with life. In fact, I believe my DFM now feels baffled and possibly unsettled that he does not get those toxic reactions from me anymore. So who does this work for? This works for parents who, if you're having a son or daughter who's difficult and trying to improve your daughter's life, it's quite mind-boggling. You know that the person is dragging themselves into a toxic experience in life, and you're trying to help them, but they're fighting you tooth and nail. This gives you the ability to be able to work with them and actually bring them out of that poisonous behavior or lifestyle they don't realize they're dragging themselves to. So this works for siblings. You may have a brother or sister who's toxic, always bringing the whole family down. this can help you start to influence that person positively. This works for husbands who are poisonous. It works for wives who are toxic as well. So it works to help you manage anybody who creates a lot of negativity. And so it also works if you have a dad and mom who are quite negative towards you as well. And one of the things that was quite interesting was how some of the people who attended, they were using the strategies to manage 2, 3, 4 DFMs in their families. Although I was a bit reluctant about that idea, but that's what they chose to do. And because managing just one DFM is hard enough, trying to use the strategies to manage 2 or 3 or 4 different DFMs, the complexities are just quite mind-boggling. But they used it and they achieved a lot of progress, because some people were feeling they were a more emotional, stable place that they've been for years, although they had all these DFMs in their lives. So now you may be thinking, okay, I want to try this out, but I just don't have time. The truth, this is a good news. It's not something that should take too much time. The only way it will take too much time is if you don't do the homework daily. You compile a whole week's homework into one day, then it probably take you an hour to do, or an hour and a half or so. But if you gave yourself just 15 minutes a day, that's all. 15 minutes a day, do the homework, do the practice, and keep trying to utilize the concepts on a day-to-day basis. That's all it needs. So 15 minutes a day for the whole 30 days, and you've got a situation where you're managing your DFM much better. There's peace, more peace. You feel more confident in yourself. So for the DFM Neutralizer training, the 6-week studio training, the value of it is £900. Now, this is another testimonial for another lady who came to the program. The program, you probably hear me saying lady, because it seems that most of the people who attend this have been ladies so far. We've got a few men, but most of them have been ladies so far. I don't know why that is. But that's just suggests maybe there are more male DFMs than female. I'm not quite sure. But she gave this testimonial saying that the program was a big eye-opener for me. I had not realized how my DFM was using my positive traits and strengths against me. And this is the thing, one of the things that you discover in the program, that your strengths, the thing that you think you should rely on the most, can often become the things that the DFMs, that causes the DFM problem to grow and generate. You know, earlier on I said to you that one of my problems was that because as a therapist, I could see the other person's perspective a lot. I was quite diplomatic in my attitude, and that's the thing that my DFM capitalized on, me being more kind and empathetic to the person. So your strengths become the thing that the DFM uses. And so the program helps to tease out all the different possible strengths that is causing the DFM problems to remain alive. So she said, I had not realized how my DFM was using my positive traits and strengths against me. Now, I'm totally aware, and I feel blessed that I know exactly how to navigate my way around the toxic encounters with my DFM. So with this program, you will also get these tools. You get a daily follow-along practical guides, and really what that is you get like questions, you get like explanations, you get like checklists, everything that's just kind of guiding you to the process you follow. So really, I'm going in detail, everything, so like not leaving anything out, in detail. And then I'm daily checking up on you digitally. Obviously, I cannot check on you by phone. I can't do that for everybody. But I'm daily checking on you digitally. And so this helps to take the guesswork out of the whole process. It helps you remain clear and confident. It gets into the depths of the emotional problems you're experiencing and helps you to kind of start to break free. So you can avoid the costly mistakes caused by trial and error, because if you go by this and just do it by trial and error, you could take everything I have shared today, the chances are that there will be some nuances that you may not be able to see clearly, and so the trial and error process then causes more problems. Like I think earlier on we were asking a question: what if you try to do the imagery and then the real life events that you experience is more complex? What goes on? Let's say you didn't know that actually you have to grow yourself into it. You'll be thinking, oh, this is not working, this is no problem. You give up on it, and it could be that thing that could have just taken you just one more step, and then you've got your victory. So you won't know. And so the daily guides, the daily checkups with you helps to keep you on track, so that you're following the evidence-based process that can help you avoid any mistakes as you're dealing with this. So it helps you to avoid costly therapy fees, because if you think about it, each day's work that I'm going to be giving you, for me, it's almost as if I'm sitting with you for an hour of a session. And you could go online and check. Therapy sessions will go from anything from £50 to almost £300, depending on the experience of the therapist. But all of that is kind of included in this. So this helps you avoid self-doubt. It helps you avoid the fear and anxiety. It helps you avoid the stress that will come by trying to do this on your own. So really, over the last 20 years, for those of you who may not know me, I've been working in the mental health field for over 21 years. So I'm kind of bringing all that experience, all the tips and tricks that I've used for working with difficult people. And I'm pulling out all the things that will call like be time wasters, so that you can get your outcomes, positive outcomes with this very fast, like that, directly to the problem. So essentially, it's all about breaking old habits, because you see, habits are really hard to change. I mean, I could leave this masterclass tonight and right now and go and enjoy the rest of my afternoon. My night is night here today now, and I'm already successful with my DFM problem. So this is already working for me, but this is not about me. This is about you. So if you leave now, you might think you've learned a lot of cool stuff, but my guess is that by tomorrow, you have already started slipping back into normal routines. You just kind of start to do things the way you've always done it. And you may not even know you're slipping back into formal routine, because this is the pattern of habits. You just go back into the habit, not knowing that you're doing the same things over again, because this is what people do. But because I'll be working with you and checking on you daily, and be kind of giving you all these guidelines daily, I'm not going to let you fall back into this whole old habits. I'm going to be making sure you're successful by breaking all the things down, because I want real lasting change so for you, so that you're not repeatedly exposed to this problem. So that's what you'll get when you invest in this program today. So really, you'll be saving time, you'll be saving money, because you won't have to kind of hire a therapist for this. You don't have to spend sleepless nights thinking about what to do anymore. You don't have to waste years of trial and error, just kind of going through the whole mistake. That could actually cause a life-wrecking result. Now, you might be thinking, though, that perhaps you can't use these tools because you've got poor memory. You will be getting emails from me, email reminders from me. And if it's so bad that you can't cope with emails and you want me to call, maybe able to have a conversation later with that. I can even give you calls to keep you on track, to check your work and make sure that you're carrying on. We can have an arrangement on that. You might be thinking that won't work, but the whole process has been engineered to make sure this is as smooth a process for you. So the tools, the value of those tools, really, the follow along daily practical guides, the values are 4,500. The daily digital checkups is 1,350. And together, this is already forming the value of 5,850. So what you're going to get all together so far, the 6 weekly DFM Neutralizer video training, the follow-along practical guides, the daily digital checkups, altogether a value of 6,750. Now, another testimonial from another client, she says that I feel confident that I can now shield myself. This means that I don't have to lose the relationships with my DFMs. Using the FBI strategy, I have been able to gain my life back. Actually, I feel more in control of myself and my situation. My DFM's behavior is no longer affecting to the point of giving me sleepless nights. I'm no longer feeling utterly hopeless and helpless. So with all of this, you also get my personalized DFM neutralizer plan. And that is that you will have a plan that is tailored specifically to your situation. Because yes, this is like a challenge, which means that we have a group of people all doing this challenge. We're all kind of discussing in forums and all that. But you need to have a plan that's specific to you, because your situation is different from my situation and from other people's situation. You may have some similarities in it, but that tiny difference may be the one thing that derails your progress. And that's why we've included a personalized DFM neutralizer plan with this whole package. So this means that you won't have to go through all the headache of doing the research for yourself, because I'm giving you this whole thing free. Because I've spent months, I've spent years really researching and understanding how to work with these issues. And so you won't have to do it by yourself. So which means you can escape any kind of traps and escape any kind of mistakes. But the whole thing will be well tailored to your specific situation. So essentially, the neutralizer plan is going to make it easier and faster for you to understand what actions to take in your DFM problems. This plan is also linked to your daily action plan. So as you're looking through your plan, you'll be able to click links to the daily activities you are being asked to do. So I'm reading your plans, everything you can. So you're working on the things that are relevant to you as you're working through the challenge. So the plan itself, the value is £450, because if you go to my website, you know that my normal hourly cost is $150, and to make this plan really takes me about 3 days to make this plan effectively. So, and that's why the value is that's £450. So what you are getting altogether, the value is 6 weekly DFM neutralizer video training, which is valued at £900, daily follow along action plan and practical guides, which is valued at 4,500. The daily digital checkup, which is valued at 1,350. The personalized DFM neutralizer plan, which is valued at £450. Totally, so far, then the value of everything is £7,200. The next testimonial I have also to give you. This lady, she said, I'm actually surprised myself the other day. Before, whenever I felt attacked by my DFM, I could not stop myself from lashing out and doing something to get back at him. I would then spend days regretting my reactions. This also gave my DFM a reason to accuse me of being a bad person. But after going through the program, I was surprised by the fact that I was completely calm. I could recognize all the toxic triggers and did not have the desire to retaliate. This meant that I did not take on any of my DFM's negative energy. So I felt empowered to just get on with my life. So this is the kind of results that you'll be able to get. So with the DFM whole program, you will also get my emotional resilience bundle. And so this is my bundle that it's a video vault where it covers how you deal with depression. Because if you struggle with depression because of your DFM, that cycle itself can keep you locked. So it gives you two explanations on how you manage depression. You have videos that's explaining how you manage anxiety. You have videos that is explaining how you deal with stress and stop stress from overwhelming your brain in a way that could lead to problems. Because honestly, I've had experience with clients who've started to experience psychotic breakdowns because of the toxicity of their DFM. So something that can happen. So this bundle is been put in this package so that you can have very clear courses and programs and instructions to help to start managing those aspects of things, which we cover to some degree in the program, but this helps you now have a complete experience to protect yourself and protect your mind. So with the emotional resilience bundle, this is like all my all my experience that I've just kind of put into these videos of all the things that I know help people with difficult emotions. So that's all the practical experiences, all the is in a way what you're getting is really all my qualification just bundled in that pack, that bundle there. So this is going to make it easier and make it faster for you to understand your emotional triggers and overcome negative thinking. It's going to make it easier to not be drowned by your energy. Because if you deal with a DFM for too long enough, you just start noticing that you're struggling to wake up sometimes in the morning, or maybe you can't sleep at night. It just kind of messes up your whole system. So the strategies in the videos will help you stop worrying. They will help you improve your energy. They will help you be able to boost your motivation levels as well. Now, you might be thinking now that because you are not in the best mental frame to do this whole program now, maybe you will do this later. I think it's important that you know that it's not true, because the bundle will give you the proven formulas that will always work to boost any emotional struggle that you're having. So in a way, if you're struggling, this is the best time to get in and start to deal with these emotions. And deal with the toxicity of your DFM. So the emotional resilience bundle is valued at £600. So altogether, you get the 6 weekly DFM Neutralizer video training, which is the core video training for the whole program, and you get daily follow-along practical guides, which is valued at £4,500. You get the daily checkup with me. Digital checkup with me, which is valued at $1,350. You get the DFM Neutralizer plan, which is valued at $450. You get the emotional resilience bundle, which is valued at $600, and you get, and the total value of everything so far then is $7,800. Now, with everything that we've done so far, you see, because I've given you loads of information. And I've shown you exactly how you can deal with your DFMs. I've shown you that you can actually use this neutralizer system to make all this work for you. But you know what? To be successful with this, you're going to need more than information alone. I know you can be successful with the system, but you're going to need the coaching. You're going to have questions, just like you had loads of questions for me today. You will have questions, and you need questions that are answered in the right ways, and you might need help and with accountability, because it's quite easy when you are not being followed by somebody to just let everything lie down. But because you know that I'll be checking on you, you'll be thinking, oh, I have to get this done, I have to get this done. So really, I'm helping you keep the ball rolling. So I won't let you quit on yourself with this. I will help you get through everything. But I can't do that in just a few videos, because I've tried to give you quite a lot in this video, but it's just an hour or so. We can't really cover everything. So really, my success rate with people who try to do this alone is really roughly around 0. But my success rate for those who work closer with me on this, those who came on the program, those who actually came and acted on the program, about 90% of them were saying they're experiencing progress, like experiencing wins. Their lives are changing. You'd be surprised how many people were saying to me, "This is life changing. This is life changing. This is life changing." So really, what I'm saying here is you need a guide who has been there before, someone who can take you right through. And you won't just be having me as the guide; you'll be having other people as well who are going through this. So we can also all be kind of bouncing things off together to ourselves. So now, if all this did for you was this, because you see, I'm not going to charge you the 7,800. For me, I think that is completely extortionate. But if I did charge you the 7,800 and all it did for you was to show you exactly how to turn your toxic interactions with your DFM into peaceful conversations that you might actually look forward to, would it be worth it for you? Would it be worth 7,800? What do you think? Would it be worth? You can just type yes. You think it will be worth 7,800. Or if all this did for you, if all this did for you was to help you influence your DFM to change positively, even if they are unwilling to cooperate with you, would it be worth this 7,800? Or if all this did was to show you how to stop the repeat abuse, the disrespect and the manipulation from your DFM, would it be worth the 7,800? Or if all this did was to enable you to be able to negotiate win-win, peaceful outcomes that help you both grow positively, would it be worth this 7,800? Why am I asking this? Because you see, I had two choices. I had a choice to make this whole program dirt cheap, or make it valuable. But if I made it dirt cheap, then I couldn't really add all the things I felt was necessary to make it a robust, useful program for you. But if I just made it a little bit expensive, allowed me to be able to package all these different things that I was able to put into it for you. So really, we went with the second choice just to make sure it had everything that you need to be able to overcome this battle with your DFM, the difficulty with your DFM. So, as I said, I'm not going to charge you 7,800 pounds. And really, on our sales page, the cost of the DFM Neutralizer Challenge is £199. But because you are here with me today, you've been here with me online, I'm going to be giving you a special discount for the DFM Neutralizer Challenge today. So I'm not going to be charging you 7,800. I'm not going to be even charging you £199. The special is for £99. If you take on the challenge today, it will be £99. That will mean that after today, it goes back up to £199. So all you just have to do is to type in stresstherapist.net at special. It takes you to the page, and you can start the program right away. Now, you've got two choices. Because the way I see it is that you have the first option you have is to do nothing and not take this leap of faith, which is really 100% risk-free, because we give you all the money back if you feel this hasn't worked for you. Or your second option is to put up this tiny investment today, and compared to all the value you get in results, it's actually quite a small amount, and give it a shot. See if it works for you. If it doesn't, for whatever reason, or for whatever reason, in 30 days' time, you're not happy at all with any of this, you'll get your money back, and there's no risk at all to you. I carry all the risks, which means that I would have given you all the program, I would have given you all the teachings, all the training, all the tools, all the plans, and you can take it away for free if you feel this hasn't really worked for you. So there's no risk whatsoever to you. You have nothing to lose but the stress and headache of trying to cope with your DFM by yourself. So here's my 100% money back guarantee. You can feel free to take a picture of it so you can show it to me if you're trying to get your money back and you feel that I'm not listening to you. But obviously, I'm going to give you the money back, because if in 30 days of trying the neutralizer challenge, and you feel it doesn't help you communicate with your DFM without nasty repercussions, or you feel it doesn't help you, you don't feel happy that you have the skills to train your DFM to respect you or to respect your views, values, and opinions, or if you feel you are not satisfied that you're able to stop second guessing yourself when your DFM is around, or you are not satisfied, or you don't feel happy that you have the skills to avoid being victimized by your DFM, or for whatever reason that you're not happy about, I'll refund your money, no questions asked. So the real question here is it worth gambling a few minutes of your time to check the program out? Even if it does half of what I'm claiming it will do today. Because really it will pay for itself. Because if you think about having years of peace in front of you, the whole thing really will pay for itself. So what are you getting today? You are getting the 6 weekly DFM Neutralizer video training, which is valued at £900. Daily follow along practical guides, which is valued at £4,500. Personalized DFM Neutralizer plan, which is valued at £450. The Emotional Resilience Bundle, which is valued at £600. Total value of $7,800. So get started today. You can go straight off to the page and make the payments now, because the offer only lasts up till tonight. So just click I'm just going to show you exactly where to go. If you can see that, just type in stress therapist. /special. So all you just do is grab this offer, and it takes you to, if you don't have a PayPal, you don't have to fill. If you have a PayPal account, just put in your email and it gets linked with your PayPal account, or you just pay here. Just click pay there, and you then fill in your details and then click on pay, and that's all you have to do. And that means that as soon as you just pay, you can start the program right away. So get started now. Don't wait for another few days thinking, okay, perhaps I'll try another day, because you may not be able to get this offer for this value, for this price again. Okay. Questions. I just wondered if anybody else has questions. Do you have questions that you'd like us to cover? Any questions? Anything you feel you need more clarity on?
It's okay. Is it possible to have this presentation by email?
This presentation itself?
Yes.
By email? No, because this is like our whole program that we give out. So it's like our proprietary program. I will be crucified by our brand manager if I said I just sent it out to the email. So sorry about that.
Fine. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Any other questions? Yes, Queen, do you have a question?
I want to ask, I understand that for 30 days, is it 30 days or 6 weeks that you'll be getting support? Is it possible that even beyond maybe I'm not sure, but just to continue to get just slightly beyond that time, because I'm not sure if I'll be able to stand on my feet after 6 weeks or after 30 days, considering that I'm a mature woman who's in her late 40s, having had these challenges just to manage myself.
Yes.
So is it possible maybe just to get even just sending an email or any form of help?
So thank you for raising that up. So after the 30 days, so the 30 days will take you to a month and a half. So we're adding an additional 2 months on top of that. So that gives you an additional 2 months to be able to complete the program. Does that answer your question, Queen?
So you're saying it's 30 days and then
so
there's
the
2
30
months on top of the...
Yes, so the 30 days is where I'll be kind of working with you to achieve the goals. And then once we reach the end of the 30 days, which means you kind of complete the program, you have like 2 months where you can still access the services within the program.